Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special episode of Take Juan. I am here with Lozinski. For those of you who don't know, Lozinski is a producer, writer, and director based in Vancouver. She is the president of Violator Films, an independent production company that has been telling Maverick stories since 2007, and she is recognized for producing socially conscious, character-driven stories with female creatives. Lori has co-produced movies such as 2019's The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open, but she has most recently written and directed a short film called A Motorcycle Saved My Life. A Motorcycle Saved My Life will play at this year's Vancouver International Film Festival before the documentary film Unarchived on Friday, September 30th at 6:15 p.m. and on Sunday, October 2nd at 12 p.m. Okay, I will begin by, thanking you, Lori, so much for joining us for this interview. It is truly an honor to have you here and Take One.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be invited. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Amazing. And yeah, also congratulations on making such a beautiful short film. I was telling you before we started the interview, but I've watched it like 4 times already and I absolutely love it. I really love how personal and earnest this short film feels. And I love the fact that it honestly feels like a little window into your thoughts, like a little window into your mind, into your memories. And yeah, I was very impressed by how touched I was by the end. Like, when I started watching the short film, you were a stranger that I had never met or known. But then after watching the short film, I truly felt like I had a little insight into your mind, and I really, really liked it. So once again, congratulations.
Thank you very much. That means a lot, because that's, the whole intention of why I tell stories is to touch other people.
You succeeded. 100% you succeeded with me.
Great.
But okay, I mean, I could talk about A Motorcycle Saved My Life because I really loved it, but I thought, we might let you introduce the film. So, I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about this short film. What is A Motorcycle Saved My Life and what makes this project so special?
Yeah, thank you. It's been a couple years in the making. It was part of a proposal that I had submitted to the National Film Board a number of years ago. Actually, a different proposal I had sent, and it morphed into this for the NFB. It seems maybe like an oxymoron. A motorcycle saved my life when most people, that I meet, always just want to tell me how many people they've known that have died on motorcycles. It's a common thing with people that ride. People want to talk about that, and it can seem very dangerous. And I don't find it necessarily dangerous, but it is unforgiving. So you have to be incredibly present. So that kind of led me into this story about how my journeys on motorcycling allowed me to live with a lot of presence, which allowed me to process and learn to live with the grief of losing both of my parents quite close together a number of years ago. And the motorcycle is such a driver in this story because my father was very against me ever driving a motorcycle all through my teen years and all of that kind of stuff, because I always wanted to. And, I wanted to please him and not scare him. I was doing enough other things that was scaring him about my life. So I didn't want to add one more thing to it. But so after he passed, I was like, well, I need to do it for me. And so, I got my learner's license. And then unfortunately, my mother passed quite soon after that. But she was very excited about me actually getting my license and was asking me what type of bike I was going to buy and all that stuff. So, so after they, were both no longer in form on this earth with us, I put a lot of miles on that bike and I thought about them a lot. And it gave me a renewed sense of what my life could be, I guess, because when they both died, I was really, really lost. I really didn't know what I was going to do, and yeah, I was in a very dark place. So having that motorcycle allowing me to get out on the road and lots of roads, and getting back to nature and camping and just remembering our place here on this earth.
You summed it up perfectly. Like, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you truly captured the essence of the short film. And once again, I really, really loved it. I mean, now that you mentioned it right there in that comment, I will agree with you that one of the moments that really stuck with me while watching your short film was the part where you talk about, one of the ways in which the motorcycle saved your life was in teaching you to, to be present, to live in the moment. And, that is something that I found very profound and I'm definitely taking away with me. And that sort of brings me to my second question, which is, in my opinion, another one of the most powerful moments in this short film is a part when we hear you, your narration, where we hear you say that that you just thought you had more time with your parents. Um, this moment really hit me. It honestly made me want to call my parents as soon as I finished watching the short film, and I did. I did. Mom, Dad, if you're watching this, that's why I called you at such a weird time. I had just watched the motorcycle save my life. And that brings me to my question, which is there anything you would like to say to people who think they have a lot more time?
Well, I first want to say you did exactly what I hoped people would do after they watch this movie is call the people that they love that are still here. Whether that's, blood relatives or chosen family or friends or your pets or whatever. And it's not that my parents, we shared love for sure, but there's just, when you have no more time, you really just go through a period of all the things that you don't know or you didn't ask, and you realize all the things that you didn't know. So that was like part of the film for me, was like this kind of journey into trying to find out more about my mother. And hilariously, I don't think any of us really knew. So, which is kind of the point to it too, that it doesn't, at the end of the day, really matter. What matters is that you keep them with you no matter what.
That is beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I guess
I don't know if I
gears-
answered your question. I'm sorry.
No, hey, that was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. Switching gears, something else that I wanted to mention is that I also really enjoyed all the shots with horses in this short film. I told you in the little message that I sent you before the interview that I grew up in Colombia. I grew up in a farm, my family's farm. We have a lot of horses in my farm, and I did a lot of horseback riding growing up. That was like the family activity that we would do almost every weekend. So I do feel that connection with horses specifically, and I loved all the shots of horses throughout the short film. And in the credits, I saw that the horse in this short film is credited as Glory, and I was wondering, who is this Glory?
Yeah. Well, Glory is actually the name of that horse. And
Makes sense.
yeah. And it's kind of, because my mother was an equestrian rider, and, it was something I wanted to do when I was younger, but didn't have the same opportunity to do that because of, money and time. And I just kind of realized, that, she had that version of her life of riding, and mine is motorcycling, and they're very similar. Because when you're not present on a horse, probably, as you know, they will also do stuff to you.
Oh yeah.
Horses will also mess with you because they're such intuitive, present creatures. And so to me, there's such a correlation between motorcycles and horses. And yeah, that the horse in the film was owned by the woman that played my mother. And
Oh wow.
yeah, she was actually going to ride another horse of hers, because she teaches riding and she has many horses. But for some reason, it didn't work out. And Glory is actually her horse that she's had for almost 20 years. And they have an extremely deep bond, Brandy, the woman, and this horse. And she was just posting on Facebook last week that it was Glory's birthday and how long they'd been together. And yeah, and just like the spirit of Glory and how Glory like moved, and like even Brandy, the morning of us doing some of our shots, like Brandy fell off Glory because they were, they were out, warming her up. And so it just reminded me again of like, yeah, like, that presence that you actually need to have on a horse as well. And you forget how big they are. Like even when you see us side by side, I look so small on my motorcycle and they just look so big. And but yeah, no, Glory, she was a very, very special horse to Brandy, which brought more meaning into the film for her, because Brandy had never been in a movie before. And the young girl that, plays me, has never been in a movie before. So it was just it was really fun to bring all of our mutual loves into the project together.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
I love the point you said about how, you riding the motorcycle is like sort of akin to your mother and her horse, and how that thing sort of connected both of you, and both being in the moment in different moments, but both being very much in the moment. And I think you really drive that point towards the end of the short film, where we see that shot of the motorcycle and the horse, just galloping side by side. Very beautiful.
My field of dreams moment, because that wasn't, I didn't actually plan for that shot. So
really?
Yeah, that was something we were just doing because Glory was getting quite skittish with some of the being in the field, and some things were scaring her. So it was just for me to ride beside her so she could just stay present with me, which was like kind of amazing. And then, we just shot it, and I didn't expect it. I was bawling.
Oh.
My team were crying because they were talking to me when I was in my helmet, and because Field of Dreams is one of my favorite movies. Like, that whole movie is really about that man playing a game of catch with his father that had passed. So to me, when that moment happened, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about it. It's I got to go for a ride with my mom one last time.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really, really beautiful. And yeah, no, all of those emotions that you're expressing, I felt them watching the short film. So thank you so much for such a beautiful piece. Yeah, I mean, moving on, I guess, to close off this point on The Motorcycle Saved My Life, I just wanted to ask you, where can people watch A Motorcycle Save My Life? Because, of course, as I mentioned, it is going to be screening at the Vancouver International Film Festival.
Yeah.
But I also have, some viewers internationally all around the world that I'm sure are also very interested in watching this short film. And I was wondering if you could tell us some of the details.
Yeah, I mean, I have big dreams for sure. I hope, it'll play in Vancouver, and then I'm going to be going to Edmonton to be with all of my family to watch it at the film festival there. So I'm very grateful for that. And it played at Calgary last weekend, and I wasn't able to attend that one. So, but what I'm super, super grateful for is having, partnered with the National Film Board, who has an international, audience, and, the film will eventually go up on their website where everyone will be able to watch it. And hopefully, they have partnerships with other streamers and that kind of stuff. So also, I have very big dreams that, anybody in the world would be able to watch it, because that's what I want. When you're telling stories, and my career in general, I want people to watch it. I want to share those with audiences. I want to share those emotions and those feelings. So I'm really excited for, I don't think it will probably be released until the new year, but I'm very excited for when it's like readily available to anybody.
Hell yes. Well, definitely keep an eye out for that, because this is definitely worth watching. But yeah, okay, so that is it in regards to A Motorcycle Saved My Life. I thought now I would, touch upon two other things that you've also produced and you've also worked on. And the first project that I wanted to ask you about is your 2019 movie that you co-produced called The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open. Yeah. And this is a movie that I am actually very familiar with because I had to study it for a class. This is a film that I had to watch for one of my film studies classes at the University of British Columbia. So, as soon as I received the email from Katya about this potential, interview opportunity, I was like, I know that name. I swear I know that name. I've seen it before. And then, of course, lo and behold, The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open. Fantastic film. I really, really loved it. And yeah, I guess the question that I wanted to ask is, did you know that this film is being screened in classes at UBC? And what are your thoughts about the fact that it is?
I don't think I knew that it was being screened, but I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled that, the university has chosen to add it to their curriculum, because, that film is important on many levels, not only in the story that it's being told and how it's being told and who is telling it, but how we chose to tell that film. So I'm sure there's lots to dissect about it. A lot of people have been able to see it, which is always the joy, because when you're in the process of writing the script and making it and trying to find the financing and trying to find all the right partners, you hear a lot of no's. So, and we heard a lot of no's on that film, from financing and like who's going to watch it, and I don't know who the audience is and all of that stuff. And you know what? Filmmaking is the long game. It's not immediate results, and it's not immediate gratification, because yeah, we made that film, 4 or 5 years ago, and people are still talking about it. People can still watch it. People still reach out to me about it. And I love that. I really, really love that. The immortality of stories is pretty incredible.
People are still watching it, and people are even writing essays about it at UBC. So
I love it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. No, hey, shout out to Dr. Christine Evans. She's the professor who taught the class. The class is Film Studies 331, Studies in Film Theory. And we watched this film for the week when we were talking about the gaze and, suture. So yeah, very important film, fantastic piece of art. And yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I wrote about your film and it was really cool.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That just honestly, it's thrilling. That makes me so happy.
I'm very glad. But yeah, no, so I just wanted to mention that in regards to The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open. But now I thought I would move on to the last section of this interview. And that is, okay, so in preparation for this interview, I browsed your IMDb page because I was like, okay, what else is it there? Like, what else can I discover? What piece of information can I find? And I was very pleasantly surprised when I saw that you produced 39 episodes of the show Pucca. And the reason why I was so surprised is because I watched Pucca all the time when I was a child. Growing up in Colombia, I used to watch this all the time. It was so funny. It was so entertaining. In fact, I watched it so much that theme song is still stuck in my head. So catchy. That said, I grew up in Colombia, so the version of the theme song that's stuck in my head is actually the Spanish version, which I don't know if you've ever heard, but it's good. It's very, very catchy. So yeah, I was just wondering if you could tell me and, other people in my generation who also grew up watching Pucca, what was it like working in a show like this? And, what are some of the differences of like producing something live action and oriented towards adults than producing something that is a bit more child oriented as Pucca?
Yeah, I mean, that was a super, super fun show. That was my first producing job, getting hired to work as a producer for another company. And I loved making that show. I produced the second season, and we had so much fun. I mean, the partnerships we had were, Disney XD, I think it was at the time, and a couple other folks. And the thing is, it's like making animation is super fun for a lot of reasons. And I mean, it's a bunch of adults trying to figure out what's funny for kids, and so it kind of keeps you like, a child at heart the whole way you're doing it. And it's super, what I like so much about producing animation over live action is animation is very controllable. So you have a lot of people all working towards the same things. You can like kind of perfect all of the artwork. You can perfect the animation. If there's, you get a cut and you don't like something, it's easy to change. Like there's all of these wonderful things that are, much more challenging in live action. It's not as easy to shift focus when you need to, because you have a very limited production schedule. But yeah, animation is a lot of fun. I really like it. I've done a couple series now, and and Pucca, I mean, I used to have that ringtone on my phone, and and like the voice records were always my favorite part of it, because we would do the storyboards and then we'd go and have the actors, do all the voices. And it's such a treat. It's such a pleasure to work on a show like that, because Pucca was so like, she was just like an amazing character. This little girl that didn't speak, but you knew exactly what she was thinking and feeling all the time, and all these kind of fun supporting characters. And yeah, it was a pure treat for me to work on that show.
Yeah, Pucca was just so passionate, so dead set on achieving her goal, and she would go as far as she had to go in order to achieve that goal. And yeah, it was a super fun show. And yeah, it's wild that I vividly remember when I was like, in first grade, I remember singing that theme song with my friends, like walking from one class to another in Colombia. Yeah. And the fact that now I'm like having an interview with the producer of that show, it's just blowing my mind. But yeah, thank you for all that insight. I'm a huge fan of the animated medium, so I find it very interesting that you've produced, for both of them, for both live action and animation, and all the comments that you just made about
Yeah.
the difference in between the mediums and how it's sometimes easier to alter some things in one than in the
Yeah.
other. That's really, really fascinating. And okay, now for my penultimate question, which is not related to any of your work specifically. My penultimate question actually is: what advice would you give to young filmmakers around the world?
Ooh, it's what I find, there's a lot of rules in filmmaking, and there's a lot of rules on story structure, and there's a lot of rules on how stories should be told and who should be telling them. And I'm kind of just saying, like, make your own rules. Something for me that I really work towards is breaking down those constructs of like the hero's journey and all of that stuff. I mean, those are like obviously wonderful concepts and structure to me, but that's not the only way stories are told. So, and I think when we're in this film industry, everyone's just like, oh, well, it's not a 3-act structure, and this doesn't happen, and there's not a rising action, and there's not this conflict, and there's not this. And it's just like, yeah, well, that's not the story I'm telling. And not every story has to fall within that to be good. Or, so I do find, for me, because I do, teach producing, and I talk to a lot of emerging producers and a lot of emerging creators. And, you're going to hear a lot of that. You're going to hear a lot of like trying to keep you in a box. And if that's not your style of storytelling or what you're going to do, then you just need to keep working to find the people that support your stories in that way. And that's something that I take very, very seriously, because I'm the same. I don't want, my characters are not heroes. I don't want to follow that structure. And, you can look at it more of a heroine's journey or that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm a real advocate of just letting stories be what stories are, rather than trying to fit in this constructed idea of what some people think a good movie is supposed to be.
That is absolutely perfect. And yeah, I will say, having watched a lot of your work, I will say that they're all so beautifully unpredictable, because, you don't have that 3-act structure. You don't have that crescendo. You don't have that climax. You don't have the save the cat moment. Like, you never know what you're going to get. And it's really, really cool. So yeah, next time I'm taking a screenwriting class, I'll send this interview to my professors.
Well, yeah, and it's great. And to me, and that's like one of the, the key things for me is like when I'm writing or I'm reading scripts that I want to produce and working with, like, I want to be constantly surprised. I've watched a lot of movies. I've read a lot of books, and if I'm doing something that's not surprising to me, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. But okay, I guess we're almost out of time here. So I think we will just go to the final question, which is, what is your favorite film? And if you don't have a favorite film, that's totally fine. What is the first one that comes to mind?
I know I referenced Field of Dreams earlier. That one has been a big inspiration for me, because I was a competitive athlete in softball and volleyball for a number of years, and I like baseball movies. I need, A League of Their Own is like, I wish I made that movie. But Silence of the Lambs, actually.
Hell yes.
Silence of the Lambs is so good, because I really love like adaptations of books. And so that was a book. So I read the book, I read the script, and then when you watch the movie, and then you kind of see how that was all adapted, because I adore the movie, because it's just like, yeah, I mean, for many, many reasons, I love that movie. But I think for me, I think that was the first time I was watching a movie where I felt so strongly connected to a female character, and they weren't trying to play off that she was female necessarily, right? Like, she was just allowed to be a human for most of it, because when they tried to pepper in those sexist stereotypes, like, she would just brush them off,
yeah.
Right? Like, it just didn't matter, right? So I kind of love that, and I take that as inspiration for a lot of what I do.
That's an amazing pick. I adore The Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, that has like some of my favorite performances of all time. Some of the best storytelling. Like, I'll never forget that scene where, you know, the cops or the FBI, they think they found Buffalo Bill and they think they found the perpetrator, and you think they found them, and they do like this intercutting in between, like showing you what's going on with the female protagonist, and then what's going on with the cops that are, you know, getting to a house, and you think they're gonna save her, but no, they're both in different locations. It's such a great film.
Lots of great surprises.
Yes. And that film is actually, it has my favorite movie poster of all time. It's so iconic. So
iconic.
Good.
Great poster. Also a great poster. Yes.
Hell yes. No, Lori, this was absolutely amazing. I love this interview. I really hope everyone who watches this interview, you know, makes a note, a mental note or an in-person note, and, you know, makes a note to watch A Motorcycle Saved My Life whenever it becomes available. It is truly a beautiful, beautiful film. So yeah, thank you so much, Lori, for joining us for this interview. Once again, for those of you in Vancouver, check out A Motorcycle Saved My Life at this year's Vancouver International Film Festival before the screenings are archived. And thank you all so much for watching this video. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you, Juan Pablo.